So you're looking at getting a motorcycle. You want something rumbly, something classic. You don't want all those fully fared crazy sport bikes that people are talking about. You want a motorcycle that people will look at and say, yeah, that thing looks proper, it looks clean. Nowadays you have lots of options. You don't have to settle for something decrepit that you found on Facebook Marketplace. If you're an American rider, chances are you're looking at picking up a Harley Davidson. And hey, no shame from me, no judgment from your sweet Papa Yam. Harley Davidsons are pretty iconic. They're simple to work on, reliable, and the Sportsters over here are gonna fit the bill for that classic, rumbly, air-cooled retro bike you are looking for. But if you've spent a little bit of time on the internet, you've probably heard of another brand called Royal Enfield. And surprisingly, they have a lot in common with Harley Davidson. From market penetration, sales figures, and even the character of these motorcycles, there's actually a lot more in common with Royal Enfield and Harley Davidson than you realize. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys that if you're considering one brand, Harley Davidson, you should probably be considering Royal Enfield as well. Let's get into it.
Royal Enfield is crushing it with sales right now. There's no two ways about that. Between the INT 650s, the Himalayans, the Scram 411, the new Hunter 350, Meteor 350, they are really putting the flag down on cheap, simple, good-looking, and reliable motorcycles. And the market is responding. Royal Enfield moved 187,205 bikes worldwide in Q2 of 2022. That's a 51% increase over their Q2 numbers of 2021. If we drill down on June 2022, Royal Enfield sold 61,407 new bikes. A vast majority of those are 350cc and under motorcycles and sold in their home market of India. In fact, they sold 50,405 bikes in that category, while 11,002 motorcycles were of the large displacement or above 350cc's. Royal Enfield North America, however, sold 3,820 motorcycles in the fiscal year ending in March 2021, meaning that they are much more of an international brand. US riders aren't buying them nearly as much as other brands, but they are growing. A huge part of that reason is because they are cheap, simple, and good-looking bikes, but let's contrast that with Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson sold 194,256 units in 2021. Specifically, they sold 126,276 units in the USA. A truly staggering number compared to the Royal Enfield, but that's because they're the home team. Just like Royal Enfield crushes it in India, HD crushes it here in the States. HD moved 194,256 units across the world, meaning that 34% of their sales are international, meaning that for every one Harley sold overseas, they sell two in America.
Now, obviously, Harley Davidson has massive brand appeal and a huge brand cachet. It's why in many other countries, and in this one as well, Harley's viewed as a lifestyle symbol. And it's why they're the most successful t-shirt company that also sells motorcycles. In 2021, Harley Davidson recorded $5.3 billion in revenue, which is a pretty princely sum, but it's not that much when you consider that Royal Enfield, the Indian upstart, in 2018 did $1.8 billion of top-line revenue. Now, that was the most recent data figures we could find, but I guarantee you that in 2021, Royal Enfield did probably close to double that if I were to guess.
The interesting thing is that both companies are taking slightly different approaches to their success. Harley trades on heritage and is currently trying to modernize its fleet with the Nightster, Pan America, and the new Sportster. Meanwhile, Royal Enfield is doing the opposite, providing cheaper, simpler, no-frills bikes that they can sell in huge volumes.
But an interesting thing has happened. While Harley Davidson failed to modernize, they found themselves selling a modern classic on the showroom floors from 1987 until literally today. Harley Davidson sells you this modern classic just because they kind of failed upwards. But Royal Enfield, on the other hand, deliberately makes simple motorcycles. They didn't do it by accident. But it begs the question, do these motorcycles have anything in common when it comes to actually riding them? Well, lucky for you, your Papa Yam has spent lots of time in the saddle of both of them. Now guys, if you love having conversations like this about motorcycle culture, Royal Enfields versus Harley Davidsons, you gotta join over at yammynoob.co. There you get access to our exclusive Discord server where I'm on there every day one-on-one chatting with people about stuff like this, and I do exclusive live streams and the Yamcast as well on there. If you wanna join at a deeper level, that's the best way you can do it. Memberships start as low as $5 a month. You get discounts for our store, Twisted Road rentals, and best of all, automatic entries to win our giveaway motorcycles. Head over to yammynoob.co and become a member today. So when you swing the leg over the Sportster, it's your classic Americana, dense, heavy motorcycle. We actually have a whole first ride and review on this machine you can check out on the channel, but I'll give you guys some quick highlights right here. It's a big, lumpy, air-cooled motor. It feels like it's made out of iron and lead, which the name kind of implies. tons of vibrations and rattles and shakes from this thing. It does not feel like a modern motorcycle, so if you're looking for something that feels more refined, this is definitely not it. Seating position on this thing is a bit awkward, if we're gonna be honest. I'm about 5'11", 165-ish pounds, and it doesn't really feel like this was made for my size. It's pretty rare for me to get on a motorcycle, and I feel like I'm not really fitting on this thing, but my reach to the bars are pretty extended. I feel like I have to get in this bizarre clam position with my feet kind of up right here above and in front of me, and my hands right over here. It's not a very intuitive seating position, and is very unique to the Sportster. Now, you can modify these with foot forward controls if you want, some bigger, taller, wide swept bars. You can kind of change the ergonomics to fit your style on this motorcycle, and that's one of the great things about a Sportster. If you don't like something on it, you can probably change it. But it's a big difference over the Royal Enfield. Swinging a leg over the Royal Enfield, this is a much more neutral and simple seating position over something like the Sportster. Now again, we've also done a complete and comprehensive first ride and review on this machine, so if you want all my detailed thoughts, that video is going to be linked down below as well. Now, this bike is very easy to get along with. Super neutral seating position, comfortable seat. It's a little lighter weight than the Sportster, and I still feel like it has the classic kind of charm to it. It's got this chrome gas tank, all the chromed out handlebars here, the twin analog clocks right there. This feels like a retro motorcycle. It doesn't feel like a brand new thing. Now, this doesn't have nearly as many rattles and shakes and crazy vibrations that the Sportster does, so maybe you can say it has a little less charm and character, but I think this thing still has plenty of charm and character to keep you entertained for a long, long time if you're to get this motorcycle. And the similarities continue. Both of these motorcycles have steel cradle frames, meaning that the engines are actually being cradled by the frame right over here. You can see that on both of these motors. And also, they're both air-cooled, which gives them a very different flavor and charm than liquid-cooled engines. A lot of you out there may know that liquid-cooled engines just run smoother, better, simpler. These old air-cooled kind of beefy engines have a little bit more character and charm to them. And speaking of character and charm, both of these motorcycles have them in spades. This one obviously is way more rattly and rowdy and wild, but this one still rattles and shakes and does a ton of stuff that you want that retro bike to do. And I would wager to say that both of these motorcycles have a ton of curb appeal. This one specifically for the folks who are looking for that heritage Harley blacked out low motorcycle. This is really going to fit the bill. And this motorcycle over here, we actually went out with a Continental GT, which is kind of the sister to this Interceptor 650, and we put it out in the people's domain out there in the city of Austin, Texas. And one guy thought that it cost $25,000, so lots of curb appeal for both of these machines. In terms of modifications, both motorcycles have an outstanding record, but the Sportsters is almost impossible to beat. People have flat track raced these, road raced them, done adventure rides with them, scrambled them. I mean, the Sportster's been around for so long, and it's kind of been America's do-anything motorcycle. You'll see our motorcycle here has the air filter and the exhaust, kind of a stage 1 setup, but I mean, you can get wild with these. We did a 1275 swap on our 883 we had back in 2020. You can change out to a chain drive, different wheels, different tires, get different bars, clip-ons. I mean, truly, as big as your desires are, you can probably fulfill them with the Sportster. So if you're trying to modify a bike, the Sportster is definitely a more superior option than the Royal Enfield. Now, that's not to say the Royal Enfield can't be modified extensively as well. This platform is a burgeoning source for people looking to road race them, scramble them, do all kinds of fun stuff with their motorcycles. Because this is such a simple and easy to understand bike as well, this is going to lend itself really, really well to modifying. You can see the motor is really exposed. You don't have a bunch of fairings, very simple steel cradle frame, nothing crazy going on with this that would impede you from taking it to your kind of heart's content in terms of modifications, but it doesn't have that super deep parts catalog and knowledge base that the Sportster does. But I still think owning and modifying this motorcycle would be a really rewarding experience. We put on these slip-on exhausts and I really enjoyed it. I think it was so simple to just swap it out. You get a really awesome beefy sound out of this. Really great motorcycle to own and modify in my opinion as well. And when it comes to heritage and style, it's a very subjective opinion. Whether you like a bike or whether you don't like a bike is all going to come down onto your preconceived notions of what you think motorcycling should be. And for many people, Harley Davidson's kind of the flag bearer. This is the iconic American motorcycle. And for a lot of you out there, there is no substitute. You've got to see this name or the bar and shield on the side of the gas tank so that you feel like you've got something with a lot of heritage and style. But I really do think that if you're not super concerned about that, if you're not just buying the bike so that other people think you've got a lot of style and heritage and all that, Royal Enfield does have a lot of panache. Like we said, we had this motorcycle out in the city of Austin. People thought it cost $25,000. It was a lot of fun. And for most people, they're going to look at this and see, hey, that's a cool classic looking motorcycle. But if you can't live with this brand, then there's just nothing you can really do. I mean, heritage and style, again, is an incredibly subjective thing, and if you can't live with the Royal Enfield brand on the side of the gas tank, then you can't really buy a Royal Enfield, can you? But for my money, I do think that this bike oozes a lot of heritage and style. So wrapping today's video up, we've seen that Royal Enfield and Harley are similar in lots of ways in terms of their sales figures, how both companies operate really well in their home country, the style and panache, the heritage, the character, the air-cooled engines, the steel cradle frames. These bikes have a lot in common, but at the end of the day, you gotta pick the one that really speaks to your soul. That's the big part about buying something that's all about style and panache and retro feelings. It's all about the feelings inside. So if you feel like the Sportster is the thing for you, you want that big 1200 air-cooled, rumbly, crazy, rattly thing, you gotta go for this one. But for my money, I really think the Enfield 650 over here is a fantastic option for those of you looking for a retro-styled motorcycle. It fits the bill in almost every single way. It's cheap, it's fun, it's easy to ride, affordable, great for beginners, great for experienced riders. For my money, I do think the Enfield is a better brand and better option. And at the end of the day, too, some of you don't really jive with the Harley brand, myself included. I think there's a lot of stigma around owning a Harley Davidson that I just personally can't get behind. However, that might be different to you. Maybe this bar and shield and this brand over here symbolizes something much greater to you than the sum of its parts. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave me a comment down below what you think about Harley Davidson versus Royal Enfield. Remember, join our community over at yammynoob.co and you can keep the conversation going on our Discord server. I'm on there every single day chatting and interacting with people one-on-one. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.